Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jay with the LowwCode, and I'd like to welcome you guys back to another tutorial. Today, we're going to be tackling Stripe with Supabase and Nordcraft. Now, before we get into this video, ladies and gentlemen, I have two things to say. One, if you are not subscribed to this channel already, please do so. And two, we're gonna have an intimate moment here because I'm about to yell at you, so I'm gonna make sure that I zoom in here. But why haven't you joined my waitlist yet? Hmm? The LowwCode waitlist? Yeah. You know the one I'm talking about. You know it's worth it. You know you want to. So head over to LowwCode, that is low with two W's, code.com, and sign up for that waitlist. Stop playing around. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now with that's over, listen. This video, if I were to show you everything that I'm going to be doing, will be here probably for 2 hours. Okay. So we are going to do more of an overview, and I'm going to tell you the steps that I took to get to where this is at. And then what I want you to do is not to copy my code, but more copy like the process and the things that I did and the things that I set up, but don't actually copy my code because what I have might not work for what you're building. So, first, I know you guys love seeing me draw things. Let's talk about what's going on. I have such a big list too of things to talk about here and show you. So let's talk first about Supabase. What is happening? Hold on. We'll get there. We'll get there. Just give me one. Yo, I'm pressing space to thank you. All right. So we have Supabase, right? Now, what we have in Supabase is we have a few things. In Supabase, you have your authentication table. Now, this is the one that Supabase manages for you for when people sign in and sign up for your application, right? Okay. Now, also, we have a users table that we created. Now, this is one that we built to fit whatever application that we're building, whatever information we need for a user, right? So, what's happening is that we have a function and trigger that when a record gets inserted into auth, the trigger is going to get triggered, right? And then it's going to create the record in, I guess I could go like this. It'll create the record in user with the function that we set up. So let's first go look at that really quickly. So here in Supabase, I'll show you the authentication or the authentication table or users table that Supabase manages for us for when people sign up and sign into our application, stuff like that. And then here in the table editor, we also have our own users table with more information that we might need. So that trigger and function, if I come over to database and I go over to trigger, that is on the auth table and it is called on auth user created. And what's happening here is it's calling this handle new user function, which is being triggered after inserts on the auth users table that Supabase manages. Okay. Now the function for that is called handle new user. We can see the code really quickly. So what this code is doing is that it's taking the ID and the email from the auth table that Supabase manages, and that if we have their first name from that same table or their last name, then we'll fill it in. If not, just leave it be. Then we're also going to set status, plan, and trial ends at. And we can see what we're setting that to is status is being set to trialing, plan is being set to trial, and then trial ends at is being set to 14 days into the future. So if I go ahead and we'll actually show this really quickly, I did delete that from the wrong spot. So if I go ahead and I add a new user here, right now we should have no one in this project. and I do create user, boom, and I run over, I know, and I run over to the users table and I refresh, you will see that we have that user that I just created with the low code email. Now you might have noticed something else as well, and that's this Stripe customer ID. We didn't set this, but it appeared. So how did this appear? Let's go back to the whiteboard. So once a record gets added to user, we then have a database webhook that listens to insert events to this user's table and it's going to run an edge function. So I don't know how I really want to draw this, but uh let's go on insert, something like that. On insert, we then want to run a edge function. So edge function, I'll just do edge func like so. And this is what's going to create the Stripe user or the Stripe customer and then just update this table over here. So let's check that out. So over here in Supabase, let's first look at the edge function because you have to have the edge function actually created before you can add it, like before you can add it to the database webhooks. So in edge functions here, I have create Stripe customer. And what this is doing is it's just taking in the current record from Supabase on the update event, not update, on the insert event. And then the only things that we care about is ID, email, first name and last name, if there is any. But we really only care about ID and email. Okay. Then what we're doing here, I don't have my, here, I'll make it better for you guys. I'll find my pen thing to help me write on this. So if I go to the pen tool here, can I write on this? Yes. Okay. So right here, we are creating the Stripe customer. And then right here, we're just updating the record with that new Stripe ID that gets created. Okay. That's literally all that's being done there. Okay, so to actually have this be a database webhook, if we go to database and we go to webhooks, and if this is your first time seeing this, you will have to click enable. I think it's somewhere on this top section over here. Then you'll come to webhooks. Then you can create a new hook, call it whatever you want, right? And then say what you want it to be triggered by. And for us, it would be public users. And on insert, and then select Supabase edge functions and just select your edge function, so on and so forth, and just create that webhook. So that is what is happening here. Again, just to recap this, when a let's go from the top. When someone gets inserted into the auth users table that Supabase manages, is then going to create a record in our users table, but then in our users table on insert is going to trigger this edge function to create the Stripe user, which or Stripe customer, which then just gets added back to the user. I guess I should add it there going that way. So yeah, so that's how we're handling that thus far. Okay. So all this will do, like I said, if we draw a box around this part, all this entire box right here is and doing is just creating users and customer IDs and assigning them to user. That's all that that box is doing right now. So let's come over here and talk about, I guess, Stripe. So over in Stripe, Things you're going to need from Stripe is going to include your secret key, is going to include your publishable or public key. I'll just call it public. Your public key, and you're also going to have to create your products. Now, your products will be your subscriptions and their pricing as well as their intervals. So let's actually go take a quick look at that here in Stripe. If you come to product catalog, here you can manage or create your products. So if you don't have any, come over here to create product and you can put in a name. Like for example, I'll name this core or something like that. And let's say that it is 9.99 for a month. We can add this product, but if you want to add more pricing to it, you can just come back into it, go to edit and say like you want a yearly plan for it. You just add another price like so, change the billing period to yearly and then whatever the price you want for yearly is. And then press next and save that. And if we refresh really quickly, you will see then that we have our 9.99 per month as well as our 130 per year. I'm going to delete that though, but that's how you create your products in Stripe. Okay, so after you have those things, well, this you're already going to need already because this is needed for. Can I draw a diagonal one? There we go. This is needed for this edge function. So that secret key, you already needed that line. It's getting on my nerves. You're actually going to draw it like that. There we go. Cool. So we gave the secret key to this edge function. In case I didn't show that really quickly, we can go to edge functions, go to secrets, and we see here that I have secret or Stripe secret key, which is being used in that create Stripe customer right here. Okay, let's see what we got to go over next. So once you have these things, you're then now ready to go to Nordcraft and we can talk about really quickly what I have going on in there. So in Nordcraft, I just have my regular boilerplate template type thing. And what we have is we have our auth forms, as you do. We have our auth forms. I don't know why my M looks funky there, or I just spazzed. We have a dashboard page, and that's pretty much it. I also created a few things just because I just wanted to do it. And one was like a trial time remaining thing. So trial time remaining thing, as well as what else did I do? Uh oh yeah, I made the pricing cards. All of these we are about to go take a look at. So if I come over here in Nordcraft, I have just this home page with a authentication form that has both a login and register on it. And then, you already know the regular format for this. If you don't know how to authenticate users with Supabase and Nordcraft, I did create a video on that I will add as a card up there somewhere. Okay. So once you have your auth forms good, right? And you're doing the authentication correctly and you're assigning the session cookie and then you have your dashboard or whatever you want to use. Now, for my dashboards, just so you have a little bit more context, I do have a dashboard page which will be used on every single page of which will be used on every single dashboard like page. So anything like dashboard slash whatever, this will be on that page which is has the app provider, which goes on every single page of my application. That's what's providing this black background and the default white text. And all we're doing here is I'm checking for the user, because if I didn't explain it earlier, I hope I did. But here in the users table, I have the RLS policy just to allow authenticated users to get their own record. So here we're just checking for the user, then we're updating a variable with the user data that we are expecting. And then I'm just providing that via context here to a formula or by via a formula so that I can get it elsewhere in the application. And I also have an event that will also broadcast the user once it's there. So that's what I have there. Then also have this little time remaining that'll tell you how much time you have left of your trial, and then you can click here to upgrade. And my upgrade sort of modal thing here is just these cards that take the products that we created earlier and then just brings them into Nordcraft. So we see here that I first have Stripe get get prices, and this is getting all the prices. So it should get 4 of them. So we can see here that I have 4 of them, but just to make things easier, I created this custom formula called group plans. We can just look at it real quickly. All this doing is just taking the prices and then adding them to the appropriate plan. So in here in plans, we'll just end up with starter and pro, which are the names of our products, as well as the 2 prices inside of them. We can look at that really quickly. So you can see here, we get 2 records back. Here, this one is the pro with the product name and or start with the product ID with the prices for each. So here is our, I'll make that bigger, is our 480 for the pro for the year. And then here is our 40 for the month for pro. And then the same for starter, just with its respective prices. Okay. So the most important thing here that we have in Nordcraft is that we have some way to have the customer sorry, we need some way to just get the customer ID that we created and whatever the price is, or sorry, the price ID, I should say, for the one that was clicked. So we have, like I said, we have 4 prices here. So what I need to do is to just track whichever one they actually pressed on. So, like for example, if I show you again the data that we have here, what I'm doing is I have a interval or a variable called interval that is set to month, and I'm just checking the prices for whichever one has month, and that's the one that I will show the price for. And then if it switches to year, same thing, it'll just change interval to year, which will match the interval year here, and it'll give me that specific price with the ID. So you see here on these buttons, sorry, where's my unclick? Yeah, here we go. We can see here that on these buttons, I'm just going through item to find whatever matches the interval here. And then I'm getting the ID for that because that's the important thing we need next. So this button will be mapped to whatever the price ID that like is relative to it. If that makes sense. Okay. So if we have these 2 things, these are the most important things that we need to be able to get. Once we have these 2 things, we can then create a session, create a checkout session. I think that's what they call it. So a checkout session that looks so messed up. I'm so sorry for my handwriting. I'm just I'm tired. um so I should have said check out. Can I move that? check out session. There we go. So we need these two things to create this. Now, this is what's going to create that actual screen that has where you can enter your card details and like information about the the product or the pricing, whatever. So we can see here that in Nordcraft, I have a edge function called create checkout session. And if I go to the body for that, what I'm taking in is I'm taking the price ID, I'm taking a cancel URL and a success URL just so we can control where they go to if they cancel or if they actually complete the purchase. And we're passing in the user's auth token so that we can get their ID from or for Stripe and all that such. So let's actually go check out that edge function really quickly. Edge functions create Stripe checkout session. We go to the code for this. And if I were to break it down for you just a little bit, what we can see is that here is where we are. Oh, that's too big. But here's where we are getting the user's token. And then we are just making sure here that we have the data we need, which is the price ID, just the price ID, the success URL, and the cancel URL. I underlined the wrong thing. Make sure you pass in these, sorry. And then we're just checking to make sure that we have those. Then here we are initializing Supabase as if we were the user. And then we're just getting user here. And if we don't find the user, we'll just return an error that's happening over here. So then once we actually have the user, we're now going to get the actual record on the user's table that we have so that we can get their Stripe ID. As you can see, that's what's being selected right here, the Stripe customer ID. Okay. Then here we are creating the Stripe checkout session. So this is where we pass the customer's ID. This is why we need the price ID because we have to pass it to the checkout session. And then here is where our success URL and our cancel URL go. So that if it's a success and they do purchase, they will go to the cancel. If not, or to the cancel, to the success. If not, and they cancel it, they'll go to cancel. Okay. So that's what that is doing. And then what will be returned is a URL, as you can see here. So once we have that URL, what I did is I just created a action since I don't think you can do this yet by default in Nordcraft is I created an action just called open new tab, which does exactly what it sounds like. It just literally opens a new tab with the URL that gets passed. So we are passing the URL into here, and then we're opening a new tab, which will then be that purchase, sorry, that checkout session. Okay, let's actually go ahead and we can now show, I think, all of this process here currently. So let's go back to Nordcraft and I will go to the home page. Or I guess I'll go to do I have an account? I do. We have LowwCode. Okay. So I can do login. Super secure password of password. There we go. We get our auth token. And now I can go to dashboard. Yes, I know. Let's actually open this in a new tab here. Now you can see that since I'm now signed in, I get my trial thing. So this is 14 days on the trial. and it says welcome nothing because I don't have my actual name here, but let's just suppose I have my actual name here and we refreshed. We should then get J. There we go. And then let's go ahead and actually lower my time here. Let's go like to the 31st or something like that. 31st like that. Oh, is there no 31st? There's no 31st. I'm dumb. Sorry about that. Okay, we refresh. Now we can see that we have 12 days left and so on and so forth. Okay. So now when we do click here to upgrade, these are those same cards that I was talking to you about earlier. Now what's going to happen is when we click this, it'll then trigger the edge function. So let's actually draw this out a little bit for you here. I guess I already kind of have it here. I'll just move this over a little bit. So when we have a card click or a button, I should say like I'll do card click, like a card click or something like that. We're then passing the customer ID and the price ID for what was clicked on here. And then we are then creating the checkout session, which will return us a URL that we want to open in new tab. Open new tab. God, that is terrible. I don't even care. It is 11 at night. Cut me some slack. All right. I'll leave it there. So let's show that. So if I click on this starter one for 19.99 and we do choose this plan, you see now we get that checkout window or the checkout page with the plan what we're subscribing to. So starter per month. And then we can just do like test data 424242. I might just skip me trying to do this. Okay, cool. And we will subscribe. No thanks. All right. So now you see here, if I refresh really quickly, we no longer have that trial thing. It is now gone. So now let's talk about what's happening. So for our last and final thing, let's go ahead and use a blue here. What we are then doing is that we are using Stripe webhooks. Now, what these Stripe webhooks do for us is that this tells us when things happen with a customer. So, like, say what we're focused on is like their subscription. So, like, when the subscription gets updated, when it gets created, and when it gets deleted. These are the three events that we care about. So, what's happening is these three webhooks, they are triggering a edge function that I have here in Supabase. And what that edge function is doing is what's setting the plan and what the dates are and such like that. We can actually go take a look at that really quickly. Is if I come over here to Supabase and we go to edge functions and I go to Stripe, this is the edge function that we created. So first things first, what we are doing is that with Stripe, it'll give you sort of this signature that you can check just to make sure, like, for one, the event's coming from Stripe, but just to make sure that everything is legit, you can get this, you can get this signature from Stripe, and you can check it. And if it's good, then we continue. If it's not good, we're going to say invalid signature. So that is what this is doing here. It's just verifying everything with Stripe. You will get this key here. Don't bother using it because it'll be gone by the time this video goes up. But you will get this key here once you create the Supabase, not Supabase, the Stripe webhook to trigger this edge function. So if we keep going, all I care about is events that start with customer subscription because the subscription is what's everything's based off of. So if we look at this code here, we are getting the user that matches the Stripe customer ID. And then here we just have some logic here where I'm just saying by default the plan is starter just in case. Then if we actually have a price, then we are setting the name based on whatever it is. And again, I just have starter here just for safety reasons. Okay, let's look further. And then all we're doing here is we're just updating the user with that information. So we're setting the plan, we're setting the status, we're setting the Stripe subscription ID and whatever the current ending period is. And then literally just update that user with that information. So now for everything pertaining to their subscription is going to go through this webhook, which will then change our user record. So we can go into our table editor here and we can see that Stripe customer ID was created. And then if I come over a little bit, you'll see that we're on the starter plan. The status is active. And yeah, that's the information that we need from Stripe. So let me actually show you how we create these webhooks. So what you can do, you can just come to this search bar up here and you can just type in webhooks and you want to go to developers and then webhooks. So we'll open this and you will see that this is where that edge function is. So the error rate is high. I know I was testing things. So what I did was I added an endpoint and here you would just get your endpoint URL. Right? And then the events here that we want to select, they are in customer, and then it is ones that is customer dot subscription. So the ones that I care about is customer subscription created, customer subscription deleted, and customer subscription updated. I believe. Then we'll add those events. You'll see that we have the three here, and then we can add the endpoint. Now, this is where we are going to get our secret. We can see right here the signing secret. Now, what you want to do, you want to take this, you copy it, and this is what you're going to check against in your webhook here, just to make sure that this is coming from Stripe and everything is legit. So you probably want to add this as a secret. I just didn't because I was testing things and yeah. So you would just add this as a secret and then put it here. So like Dino env get and then like Stripe webhook secret, something like that. And then you will just do the same thing. And yeah, that's the entire system right there. I hope that made sense. And I know I'm not really showing you like how to do everything because literally we will be here for forever. That'll be like a 2-3 hour long video. If you actually want that, then I will do that. But that's the overview. So again, just take the process and fill it in with your actual stuff. Don't actually just copy what I have there. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this, if you got any value from this video, do me a solid and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment on what you'd like to see more of, as well as if you actually want to subscribe to the as well as if you want to join the wait list. Again, the first 25 people that sign up to the wait list get a discounted price. So yeah, just make sure that you go join that wait list if that's something you're interested in. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, happy building.